Hey there, and welcome back, Bears fans, to this Friday edition of the CHGO Bears Podcast. It's time to kind of wrap up the Chicago Bears bye week here today, and I'm your host, DeWitt. Nick, he has the day off, so joined with me is Greg Braggs Jr. here today, so it's kind of like a CHGO audible from the stand sort of day. How about that? Can we go with that?
Yeah, exactly. Meatball in the stands.
There we go. There we go. I like that a lot. I know, Greg, you had a birthday here earlier this week. I haven't got to tell you like in person, happy birthday. I've done it like over like communications, like electronically. But now that we're here face to face, even though it's still electronic, I just want to say, happy belated birthday. And I hope you had a great time with your family. And I know you're getting excited for the holidays that we're having, but I'm excited to be here with you to talk Bears football here today.
Yeah, thank you. When I on my birthday, when I walked in the studio, everyone started clapping for me like I shouldn't have made it there. So I don't know what this is all about, but I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Like, congratulations. Like, you made it. Like, I don't know if that makes you feel like middle age is like
I feel
right
like
here.
nobody expected me to make it this far. I think that's what the sentiment is.
I love it. I love that a lot. So just so everyone knows who's either watching or listening, obviously there's no game to preview here on this Friday. So Greg and I, like, we're talking like, what should we do here? And I think we thought it would be a great time to kind of take a step back from the week to week grind, that game to game. It's a slog nevertheless. And just kind of take a step back, look at the big picture and the Bears future by, well, we're going to share our top 5 building blocks each for the Bears, meaning we're going to highlight some young players that we love to see the Bears continue to develop and build around. We'll do a quick free agency revisit to determine, who's living up to their contracts, who's proving to be worth the money. Also highlight the free agents that came in this year that maybe need to step it up the rest of the way. And we're going to kind of wrap up this episode by doing a little bit of tank watch, share the games that you should be paying attention to this week, as they're going to have implications on the Bears draft pick statuses. Did I miss anything there, Greg?
No, I think that's the rundown. I'm excited for it.
I'm excited too. I love Fridays. That's exactly what I tweeted here just a few moments ago. It's my time to kind of relax from some of the other priorities that I have throughout the week and actually focus on something that I really love, which is Chicago Bears football. So let's get into the first segment here today, Greg, and we're going to look at some building blocks. Now, I'm not going to say you cheated and waited until I fell asleep to give me your list, so I couldn't take any of the players on your side, because you have a really great list too.
Yes, that's true. I did pull that on you.
You did. I woke up and I was like, well, thanks. I would have taken, X, Y, or Z here, but that's okay, because I wanted to prove a point here today, and I wanted to not take anybody on your list. You have 5 plus an honorable mention, so I decided I'm going to make 5 plus an honorable mention, which makes 12 players that we would classify as building blocks, which I think shows you what Ryan Poles has been able to do here over his first 2 draft classes, actually getting players that you believe we can build this team around. So I'll go ahead and let you go first. I don't know if you want to just do all 5 and then talk about them, or if you want to go player by player, and we can alternate if we go that route. Whatever way you want to go about it, I'll trust, but I want you to go first with your building block.
Yeah, I guess I'll try to shoot through these without it being a 7-minute soliloquy. And then if there's any that pique your interest, then you can kind of just add on to kind of where I'm going with this. But the way I ranked this was, certainly building blocks, but I started with Braxton Jones as number 1, because when you talk about guys that we need to see here the rest of the year and what they can do, he's certainly a building block. But I think when you separate Justin Fields from this constant discussion of whether or not he's going to make it as the starting quarterback next year, I think Braxton Jones certainly still has that on the line when you consider the draft implications, which we'll get into later. And, so how well Braxton Jones plays the rest of the year is going to dictate whether or not Ryan Poles considers to take another left tackle in the top 10 of this draft, where there's a couple that are certainly intriguing. So to me, since Braxton Jones has returned from injury, he's looked outstanding. And I definitely think that if he continues this play, I think that's enough for Ryan Poles to not draft a left tackle, but I'm not entirely certain. So, I want to see him getting more opportunities here as the year ends, put him on an island a few times, see what he can do. And if he can be the opposite of Darnell Wright, you've started to check some boxes on the offensive line, which has looked great here in the last couple months. Really.
Yeah, no, they really have. Honestly, let's just alternate because my number one guy here is Darnell Wright, and you just mentioned him. And here's a great point on top of it. The fact that you and I have offensive tackles as our number one building blocks is really exciting here for the Chicago Bears, a team
Really?
that has really struggled to get those positions right, long-term fixes right for quite some time now. And the fact that you have Braxton Jones, I'm looking at Darnell Wright. I mean, I believe he's not the right tackle of the future. I believe Darnell Wright's the right tackle now and going to be here for the future. And he's had a hell of a year for a rookie right tackle. Just, I mean, going up against Aiden Hutchinson, Max
Yep.
Crosby, earlier in the year, Montez Sweat too. Like he's
And
done
he's
a
doing
very
that
good
playing
job.
hurt too.
Yes, a tough son of a gun he is out there too. Like you said, playing through injuries, playing against elite talent, and really holding his own. And obviously he's going to give up pressures. There's going to be some sacks given up here too. He's a rookie; he's still growing, but the
Right.
good and the great so heavily outweighs some of those learning curve moments that we've seen here from Darnell Wright this season. So I'm very excited about his future. He's shown plenty of promise and more. He's already one of the better, if not the best, run blocking tackle. There we go. I had to put those words in order in my head in the entire draft class so far. Like when you look at some of the other ones out there, I think he's doing it better than most. So I'm very happy he's here. I love your number 1, 2 there, and Braxton Jones. But I think the silver lining, or just like the lesson learned between these two, is the fact that the Bears have two bookends that are young with a lot of potential that can still grow. And that's a testament to Ryan Poles.
100%. And anybody in the chat or listening later is like, don't get me wrong. I want Braxton Jones to be that answer because I want to take that other pick we have in the first round and use it for something of a bigger need. But at the end of the day, when you're building a roster, GMs are looking to always upgrade. Braxton Jones might be a very good left tackle, but is there a great left tackle? And I need Braxton to show the rest of the season, 5 games to go, that he has met a threshold worth Ryan Poles not moving off of him. And I think he's trending in that direction, but I'm not giving anybody anything until they everybody's got to earn it across the board. The coaching staff and the players, even the GM, who I'm very high on, I've made no secret about that. Everybody's got to earn it here, and start becoming a winning franchise here. So my number 2 player, this guy's really been breaking out lately, Gervon Dexter. This guy is, honestly, it's been exciting to watch. You see, it's not just flashes. You see burst. You see somebody that can really wreck the middle of that offensive line. So to me, if he continues on, they're still going to be in the market for a 3 technique, but you're starting, like when I look at Andrew Billings, Zach Pickens, Gervon Dexter, I think their baseline is that they're solid rotational pieces going forward, but I think Gervon Dexter's ceiling is higher than that. He has a chance to be someone that's a game wrecker. That's something Corey Wooten talks about all the time. And so he's been doing that, I feel like, here lately. And if he can continue on that trajectory, we've got something cooking here with this second round pick.
I like that one a lot. He, like you said, really trending in the right direction as of late, getting a little bit more playing time, making the most of the snaps he's getting out there, because the Bears, they have a very to get some of these snaps, especially with some of these rookies right now. Pickens is another one that's struggling more so to get on the field. But no, I like Dexter a lot. I've been very excited about him. And the fact that he's your number 2 excites me, Greg. And I think you're spot on with your assessment about what that ceiling can look like, because we've seen flashes of it, or as you called them, bursts. But if that can be something he grows into, be a player that's more consistently bursting, when that playing time does grow, as some of these maybe veterans go elsewhere, to me, that's really, really exciting. My number 2 is Jaquan Brisker. So I'm going to go with a second-year player over here. And what I love about Jaquan, on top of the swag, the attitude, and the presence that he provides in the back end of that secondary and defense, it's just the fact that he's super versatile. He just does a little bit of everything and does it well. Down the box for run support, coming in as a pass rusher. And then on top of that, his pass coverage. I know last year the issue was missed tackles, but he's really cleaned that up here in year 2. And I'm going to bring the numbers here. As a rookie, 17 missed tackles for Jaquan Brisker, only 3 so far this season. His missed tackle percent went down from 14.7% all the way down to 4.3%. Like, that was his biggest issue as a rookie, and he cleaned that up. So that gives me hope that there's going to be other areas of his game that he's going to be able to kind of build up as we continue to go on. His yards after a catch allowed, due to not missing so many tackles, is severely dropped this year too. He's consistently, either whether it be last year or this year, one of the most productive safeties when it comes to pass rush ability. So again, very well versed, very versatile, on top of just the general swag and attitude he brings to his defense. But Brisker's another young guy that I expect to be here for some time. I hope he can stay healthy, limit some of these concussions that he's been having and dealing with. But overall, he's still a player that I'm very high on, excited for his future.
Yeah, I think the biggest question with him, I mean, he led the team in sacks last year. Like you said, great pass rush. And not a good thing for Jaquan Brisker, not a good thing for the Chicago Bears. I don't know, Will. I don't know if you have the stats close enough to you, but are we going to have a non-defensive line player lead the team in sacks again this year? Because I know Montez Sweat's starting to get a couple, but I kind of feel like one of the linebackers probably leads the team in sacks and not Jaquan Brisker. So again, like, still work to do on this defensive line. If I had to guess, that's what it is. I know I put you on the spot there.
No, it's actually interesting. So Yannick Ngakoue does lead the team with 3 sacks so far.
Not enough, though, right?
It's not enough, but it does come from the line. Yes.
We'll take it.
Sweat's already at number 2, though, at 2.5, and then it's TJ Edwards. But honestly, though, like, if you look at the top, you have Ngakoue, Sweat, Edwards, Justin Jones, Rasheem Green, DeMarcus Walker, then Jaquan Brisker. Okay. So at least you are seeing some of that production, but Brisker only has the 1 sack. Like, he has a lot more pressures this year than he does sacks. But it's still, like, the numbers in general are still low. Like, sure, we can't dismiss.
No, that. I mean, when you compare it to the Eagles last year, who had 10 sacks apiece from each of their defensive linemen, well, we can dream of those days. Hopefully, maybe sooner rather than later. The biggest thing with Jaquan Brisker is he's got to stay healthy. I think most of us believe in his talent, and it's more about him staying on the field. And he's had a really tough time. Even in the last game, he got banged up at 1 second, and him and Tevin Jenkins, I think, are both aligned in this. Like, great talents, but every time they get a little ding, you start to cringe because you're worried about their future and if they're going to be able to make it through a game, let alone a season. So we'll just have to monitor that as it goes. Injuries isn't something you can control, but as Brian Baldinger said on one of our shows, injured guys, he said, fat guys stay fat and injured guys stay injured. That was his quote. It was a very football-y quote. My third guy here is Tyreek Stevenson. He's going to be having to come off of injury, and I hope he can return here after the bye week. But I've really enjoyed watching him play since training camp. He's got a lot of confidence. He has ability to stick on guys one-on-one. It was funny when I watched, we don't get too many opportunities to sit at home and watch the rest of the NFL on Sundays when we're covering the Bears and doing all these different things, and we're hyper focused on the Bears. Well, I'm watching the CBS game and they showed a highlight montage of Joey Porter Jr. And as I was watching it, I couldn't help but think, I was like, man, if Tyreek Stevenson made all these plays, they would have called a penalty on every single one, because they're like, look at all these amazing plays by Joey Porter. Yeah, they were, but he was being extremely physical with his wide receiver. And it feels like Tyreek Stevenson is allowed to get away with that half the time. And now he's starting to show some of the ball skills. He dropped an interception, called himself out on it, and then followed the next game up with an interception, kept his hands on the ball. So I like this guy's swagger. I like his confidence. I like, that he believes he belongs. And when you're a corner, you got to have an enormous amount of confidence, because it's a tough position to play. And I don't think he's lacking in that regard. So Tyreek Stevenson is somebody I'm going to be keeping an eye on. And also because as we get into maybe my later on, my honorable mention is Terrell Smith. He's, for the same reasons, like, both these guys are intriguing, but the other reason I'm keeping my eye on them is because it all surrounds around Jalen Johnson's future with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to keep Jalen Johnson because I want to keep everybody here and keep building and not losing players. But at the end of the day, it is a business. So the other reason I'm watching these two corners is because are they going to be good enough to take the load if Jalen Johnson were to leave the Bears in the offseason?
Very good point. I mean, look at us. That's a couple secondary players in a row. I'm going to throw a third here. And before I even get to it, just there's two other players that just came to mind, and Josh Blackwell and Jalen Jones, too. Like they were undrafted guys last year who had to play a lot, and they don't have to play really at all this season because the Bears have been relatively healthy. But they're still players that I wouldn't call them like building blocks, but I would call them good young players on this team, just to, that have depth and experience. So just more youth that it can provide an impact here for the Bears. So the third secondary player in a row, since my number 3 guy is Kyler Gordon here. Kyler, who started off the season injured for the most part, but ever since he came back, like he's played, I thought really well. I really loved that Panthers game. I know I wrote that in my instant reaction, just watching Kyler just be all over the field, making plays against the run, making plays against the pass, affecting plays by creating pressure coming off that nickel. He being more focused in the slot as that cornerback this year has been very impressive to me. His pass rating when targeted has gone down over 20 points, 110 as a rookie, 88 this year. Reception percentage is down 8. His yards per catch allowed is down 3 yards. His yak per catch is also down. I mean, just so many positive signs of growth here from Kyler Gordon. Just still a player that I would love to keep around, develop, to stay healthy as the big one, just like Brisker in a way, but just also keep growing and developing. As long as he continues to grow his confidence, I still think the sky's the limit for Kyler Gordon.
Man, in the second half, late in the second half against Minnesota, Alexander Madison comes through tries to find the hole, and he gets smacked. Like you can hear the helmet pop, and you're like, holy shit. Like you would have thought for sure that was Jack Sanborn. And no, It was Kyler Gordon that laid the wood to him. So I've always loved his physicality. That was a very underrated thing to start the year when he was hurt and out, and I don't think at the time, I don't think Bears fans realized the impact they were missing there, because he was, one of the guys at camp when you were watching, like, okay, this guy's going to be a leader on this team. And then all of a sudden he goes out and he can't play to start the year. And I thought that was a huge blow that I thought was underrated by some fans, that I don't know if they realize what his ceiling potential is, which is very high.
And on top of that, too, with him being in the nickel and having to help, you mentioned, like, going there, Madison, like that run support in general, just like screen game support, like near the line of scrimmage. Like, I know the Bears' run defense has had like a great turnaround over the last month and a half. Honestly, talking this with you, like, I would love to compare, like, when did Kyler Gordon come back, and then how did those rushing numbers on defense like fare? Because I feel like the timing is pretty close of when he returned and when this run defense really started like coming into its own.
Well, at one point, the entire secondary was out, and that's part of it. I mean, everybody points to Montez Sweat being the turning point, but it's also this secondary getting healthy, and it's not easy for a defense to take on the amount of injuries they sustain there. So that's definitely something they've been benefiting from, is a little bit of health here lately and not as many injuries on the injury report. So let's hope that continues to end the year. My fourth guy here is Roschon Johnson, who is starting to see a little uptick in snaps. I think I got ahead of my skis going into the season saying he was going to take the RB1 job, week 3, week 4. I always am like the flavor of the month, the next running back in line I fall in love with all the way down the line. I mean, it was Montgomery. Right away, you could see how he was going to be fun to watch. Then Khalil Herbert comes in. I'm like, I like him more. And now Roschon Johnson comes to Bears. I'm like, okay, now I like him more. And whoever, is they get next, I'm sure I'll like more than Roschon. That's just how I am. So to me, Roschon Johnson is starting to get the uptick in snaps because of how well he is in the pass blocking, part of the game. And they need that, to hold protection up and give good pockets for Justin Fields. And you saw in the second half, I mean, Tevin Jenkins finished the job, but when they blitz through and there's two guys that get through clean, and Roschon took both guys on, and of course, help is on the way. Tevin Jenkins comes across and, really wasn't even his assignment, and finished it for Roschon. But I give credit Roschon a lot, because even that split second of slowing those guys down is the difference between a positive and a negative play. And I think we all see how hard he runs. I think he's got a little bit of squeeze to him. He's able to squeeze through holes for being such a big and physical runner. Sometimes I see him squeezing through holes that you maybe wouldn't attribute to a guy that plays the way he does. So I just think across the board, I'm excited about Roquan Johnson's future here with the Bears. And with his pass blocking, I think he's going to get more snaps than not when you talk about the rest of the running back room.
For sure. That's a great choice there. Rojo, you know how I feel about my Rojo Mojo. Absolutely. I don't have anything else to add on him per se, but I would definitely agree with you on the list. My number 4 is Jack Sanborn, just another young player on this team that I love having around. Sanborn, of course, isn't playing as much as he did a year ago, isn't playing the same exact position that he did last year too. But at the same exact time, I thought he's transitioned to the Sam backer spot pretty seamlessly, continues to grow and develop. I mean, he's already only 3 tackles away from tying his record from last season. He's already tied his TFLs from last season, already have 5 tackles for a loss this year. And again, I think he's just another player that can be there in his role, also on special teams, and make a big impact for this team. I think everyone listening knows that we love Jack Sanborn here on CHGO Bears. I'm not going to go too deep into this one per se, but he is definitely one of those guys that I would label as a building block.
Yeah, Mark Carman certainly loves Jack Sanborn, and it
yes.
is in a way where maybe Jack Sanborn needs to get a restraining order on him. And I mean, the restraining orders are piling up on Mark Carman when it comes to Sanborn and Tyson Bagent. So that's just kind of how it goes when he gets his locker room love affairs. My fifth guy is somebody like where we talked about all the positives, and I've really been honing in on the rookies from Javon Dexter, Tyreek Stevenson, Roschon Johnson, who Crazy Ace says I called him Roquan Johnson. I don't know if I did, but if I did, I apologize. I am a moron, so you have to forgive me. And Terrell Smith,
mortal, but okay.
No, a complete moron or a meatball. Meatball's a little nicer. And Terrell Smith is my honorable mention. Like, all of these are rookies this year. To your point earlier, Will, about my belief in Ryan Poles and the way he drafts, the way he's trying to build this roster. I don't expect him to bat 1,000. I don't expect him to not make mistakes. And he certainly has made a few. But still, all these players we've talked about, to me, is a testament to the direction this franchise is going, building through the draft. But my 5th guy to watch that needs more development here is Tyler Scott, and I'm just not seeing enough from him. And maybe I'm getting a little bit of jealousy watching Tank Dell play the way he is in Houston. Certainly somebody I think a lot of us were high on, especially here at CHGO Bears. Everybody, all you guys doing the draft breaks down, you, Nick, Hogue, everybody highlighted that Tank Dell was a guy that could play. When I spoke with him at the Combine, you could certainly see that confidence. I like Tyler Scott. I enjoy his interviews with Adam Rank on the Sick podcast. He does you can tell he's a good kid, but I'm just not seeing enough from Tyler Scott on the football field. And that may not be his fault. And maybe it's not fair for me to place too high of expectations on him as a rookie wide receiver trying to get snaps over Darnell Mooney and DJ Moore and even Chase Claypool earlier in the year. But at the same time, obviously the Detroit mishap where he doesn't run underneath the ball, he slows up. He admitted to it as such after the game. I think he's got the look and vibe of Johnny Knox. Like when you watch him run routes, he moves like Johnny Knox. He really does. But, I don't know how long it took Johnny to get into the NFL speed, but I'm just not seeing it yet from Tyler Scott. So I want to see more from him here these last 5 weeks.
Can't fault you on that one. Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of players like outside of DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, like it's so sparse and so intermittent of like when these guys actually do get involved. And Scott being someone that we invested a draft pick in, we see the potential. I'd love to have him find a bigger role down the stretch, give us some confidence heading into the offseason that he can be that deep threat that we wanted him to be once the Bears drafted him. My number 4 here, or actually number 5 already, we're trucking right down this list, is Zach Pickens here. So he is someone, I know Dexter is much higher in the list, and I think that's very well deserved. But Pickens, even though he's not getting a ton of playing time, I still think he's playing pretty well when he's given those opportunities and those chances. He has a sack this year, I think, among interior defensive linemen that is not Pickens. The only other one that has a sack this year would be Justin Jones. I know he's played a lot less than Dexter, but they have the same amount of, I think, tackles and run stops this year. Pickens is the only Bears defensive tackle with a forced fumble this season, so he makes those impactful plays. And not every rookie's going to see a lot of playing time year one. Like, it's not like, even though you're invested like a decent draft pick in this guy, like, I would love to see him out there more, but at the same time, like, I understand that you have Billings out there, you're paying Justin Jones money. You want to have him out there too. Now, obviously, when you want to develop guys like you and Tyler Scott, I want to see more out of Pickens, but he is someone that, even though his role's smaller than maybe I thought it would be when we drafted him, I think we're getting a good bang for our buck in terms of like a per snap basis and production out of Pickens. And he's someone that, once he continues to develop and grow and some of these veterans move on, I do think he can step in and be a solid starter and develop into that. I like you. I think Dexter maybe has the higher ceiling, but that's why you drafted 2 guys, because they're going to provide you something a little bit different and give yourselves, a couple opportunities to find a stud here. And I think he has potential to be a very solid player, Pickens does. So he's still someone I want to see more of. I just think it's going to take time.
Yeah, 100%. And they say that about interior defensive linemen, that it takes them a little time to acclimate to the league, and so it to me, like I said earlier, I just think that specifically with Zach Pickens, his baseline is solid rotational piece, which you need that, especially in this defense. Not sure if Matt Eberflus is going to roll over into next year, but if he does, he likes to rotate his defensive linemen in and out. So you need depth there, and he's going to provide that depth. And he's just, he's going to get better. How better? I think that sometimes fans like myself run into is, okay, he's this good this year, he'll be this much better next year, and in 3 years he'll be the best defense. It doesn't always work like that. Not everybody works on the same trajectory, but you can sometimes determine a guy's floor. And I feel like his floor is solid rotational piece. And that's why I differentiated seeing a flash from Zach Pickens and seeing burst from Gervon Dexter. There is a difference between the two. And I think you can kind of see that at times, but that's not to short sell what Zach Pickens can bring to this team.
1,000,000%. Totally agreed. And lastly, real quick, honorable mention, because you did one, I have to do one. I went with QB2. I went with Tyson Bagent here. I thought, when he had to step in for Justin, he did a great job. A lot of promise was shown there. Obviously, we got to clean up all of those turnovers, the 6 picks, a couple of those fumbles. But when you're an undrafted kid going from D2 to the NFL, like, I just expect some of that's going to be part of the equation here too. But I was just looking at this, me and my numbers. There's this 2 I'm going to highlight here. His adjusted completion percentage, if you take out all of the drops, he would actually lead the entire rookie class for quarterbacks, which is really exciting, at 76.3%. And then his ability to avoid pressure. So he was pressured a decent amount, as we know, but he was only sacked on 9.4% of his pressures, which would also be the best in the entire rookie class. CJ Stroud would be next at 17%. But for his ability to avoid pressure, keep plays alive, I know the turnovers were a big issue, but I think he just has like a little bit of an it factor to him. And I think everyone here knows, Tyson Bagent. And as we know, the conversations that ensued when he was starting and with Justin out. So I don't need to dive into all of that, but he is still someone. I know, of course. I mean, when in doubt, blame Carm. That's a great motto. Yes. I keep a sticky note on my computer right here of that all the time, Greg. But no, Tyson Bagent, someone that I feel blessed that he's a Chicago Bear. I think we're lucky to have him. And again, another testament to Ryan Poles, where you find a quarterback that can be your QB2, a young one that you can continue to work on and develop, and you didn't even have to invest a draft pick on him. I think that's a tremendous value there on top of it all.
Yeah, definitely intrigued to see him develop going forward, maybe get a little more meat on the bones here in the offseason, build up a little more muscle. But no, he's got a lot of confidence, and I enjoy, you know, parts of his game that I think is somebody that can stick in this league and have a long career, certainly as a backup, and maybe poke his way into a starting role at some point for some team. You know, I'm never gonna, like Eberflus says, I'm never gonna put a cap on a guy's possibilities, and you just have to wait and see. So, you know, it all depends on situation and timing. Sometimes in the NFL is everything. And if he's ever able to get his opportunity, you saw what he made of that in his rookie season, going 2-2. Yes, you know, the two teams he beat were beatable teams, but at the end of the day, no easy task for a Division II undrafted rookie free, undrafted, rookie free agent. So I give him a lot of credit there. And, I just thought him and Justin, when you talk about the divisiveness, when it talks about the quarterback conversation in the city, I think that they both did a good job of sticking together, even though the fans and Mark Harmon were trying to drive everyone apart.
There you go. No, I love that a lot. And hey, it's not easy for the Bears to win beatable opponents or winnable games in general. So the fact they did it with Tyson,
he got us our first home win in like 2 years.
Yeah, he sure did. So that's why, again, a really good building block. But real quickly, just wanted to like highlight this another point about like there are pieces all over. We mentioned 2 offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, a safety, 3 cornerbacks, a linebacker, a running back, a quarterback, and a wide receiver. So again, there are like pieces here and there. Like you can sprinkle them around the entire team as to why the Bears can be better here moving forward. I saw Super Chat come in from Chi-Town Real Estate, Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, 219 representing. Howdy, fellers. Love you all. Well, we love you too. Thank you so much for the Super Chat.
Will and I are both region rats. So
that's right. I'm a displaced one right now, but who knows? Maybe a reunion can be in my future. Watch out. All right, let's take our first time out here, Greg. Let's get to our first break. And on the flip side, we're going to look at some free agents and kind of just assess where they're at so far at the bye week. But I want you to know about Circa Sportsbook, because you'd better be using the Circa Sports Illinois app, because they have those tight money line splits in that low hold model. That's why I love the Circa Sportsbook app, because, other games are going to be on other apps, like they use like that -115 or -120 split, but on Circa they strive to keep it at that -110. That way, they keep as little money as possible in those large market bets like futures, especially compared to the other books. They also have high app limits. They're very transparent. Circa does not limit players based off their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike some of those other books that do limit winning players. So if you're a good bettor, you know where to go. We encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available. Compare the lines from each sports book, and you'll see why Circa really is the best. And on top of that, they have really tremendous customer service, because there are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion. Unlike some other books that you have to really just go around the process, talk to different chat bots before you can find a real person. That's not the case at Circa. You get to a real person right away, and all aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. So it's top notch. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app. Again, circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up here today. Also be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. And if you or someone that you know may have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. You can also text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
That's right. Shout out to Circa Sports. They were great with us all year long with the tailgates and everything else, and we appreciate their partnership. Also want to give a shout out to our guy, and that's Charlie the Bacon Guy. Charlie the Bacon Guy is based out of Woodridge, Illinois, and he makes craft bacon and bacon jams in over 30 different flavors. The bacon and bacon jams are an all naturally cured, fancy preservative-free product. There aren't ingredients that Charlie can't pronounce himself involved in the process, unlike most store-bought bacon. It's vacuum sealed and freezes great, lasts in the package up to 45 days in the fridge and 6 months in the freezer, so you can stock up for the winter. bacon jam lasts about 60 days in the fridge, usually about 20 seconds in my house, and up to 6 months in the freezer. Yeah, I mean, I'm going through it. Hey, that's part of, we talk about my macro diet, and I have bacon every morning because that checks 2 boxes, the fat and the protein. You need some fat in your life, not too much fat, but you need some. So I always make sure bacon is a part of my diet every single day. Some of the best flavors they have are maple pepper, Nashville hot, French toast. Who doesn't like French toast and bacon? Now you get it French toast in the bacon, buffalo, ranch, jalapeno garlic. There's just some great ones. And they also have bacon jam flavors, which are bourbon, spicy, peach, and then obviously their original flavor. I'm so looking forward here. We got our Christmas party next week. And if Charlie the Bacon Guy's, jam isn't making an appearance there, we're doing something wrong. The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything: scrambled eggs, toast, crackers, burgers, grilled cheese, cinnamon rolls, or Charlie's favorite, the spoon. You can pick it up, or he will deliver it to you, meet you halfway, or even ship it. He makes the bacon so you can bring it home. Starting now until January 15th of next year, you can save 10% on your order at charliethebaconguy.com when you use the code CHGO10. Get your orders in and use that code to save. So make sure you hit him up. He's on Instagram at Charlie the Bacon Guy, on Twitter at CZ the Bacon Guy. His email, charliethebaconguy@gmail.com. And then, of course, visit his website at www.charliethebaconguy.com. Live as of November 12th. So he just launched that. So get your orders in. It's Christmas season. It's a great Christmas gift.
Well, I think we just need to cancel the rest of this episode and just go eat some bacon, honestly.
Yes, 100%.
You got me in the mood.
You cannot go wrong there.
Saw this super come in from John Ray 94. Listen to you guys every morning on my way to work. Finally able to be here live. Welcome to the live show. You guys are the best. Bear down. So glad you're here. Thank you for the super and appreciate you. Honestly, just letting us be a part of your morning commute to work. I think that's awesome that we get to share that time with you. So thank you very much. All right. Well, DeWitt, Greg Braggs Jr. here on the CHGO Bears Podcast. We're going to look at some of the Bears free agents and just determine if they're living up to the contract, living up to the hype, or if we need to see more down the stretch. So, Greg, I'm going to give you a player. You can just tell me, where you stand and why, and then I can chime in and just let you know why you're wrong. Does that sound good?
That sounds absolutely good. Because
perfect.
I might get a few wrong. You just never know. I always have the hot takes here at CHGO Bears.
Man, we got this. All right, Tremaine Edmonds. I think this is a very interesting one to even start off with, but he's first on my list. Is Tremaine Edmonds living up to his contract or his hype?
Well, I think most fans would say no, and I'm not going to say that's unfair. It's certainly fair to say that. I think it's more based on, did we really need him, as opposed to, is he good enough to warrant the contract he was given? I think he is, talent-wise, plenty talented to earn the contract, which he still has the opportunity to do here going forward. He just, to me, and this is where the excuse maker in me comes out, and I put my fan hat on, but we just talked about it earlier. The defensive line is just starting to get some pressures. Early in the season, it was non-existent. There were multiple games where the defensive line was registering a goose egg for sacks and barely getting any pressures, barely touching the quarterback. And, oh, by the way, your entire secondary was hurt during some of that period of time. But we expect the linebackers to play at their top line ability. I mean, this is a complementary sport, offense, defense, but then also when you just stay to one side of the ball. So now that this team is starting to get filled out and the injuries are starting to whittle away here, now all of a sudden we're seeing Tremaine Edmonds flash a little bit, fill the hole. TJ Edwards flying all over the place. The linebackers, we talked about Jack Sanborn and what he's been doing at the Sam. So to me, I like what Tremaine Edmonds is doing. Does he need to play to a higher level and be a leader on this team going forward? 100%. But I'm willing to give him and the entire linebacking core the benefit of the doubt when you consider some of the defensive struggles they've had around them. And now it's starting to all come together and everything's starting to look right. And they're all starting to, really buy into what Matt Eberflus is trying to preach to them. And I think you're seeing the results of that. Tremaine Edmonds had a couple really nice plays here last week, getting some stops in the backfield. And, I think it was one of those, oh, there he is. Okay. And that presence he has, he's a big dude. And if you give him that opportunity to fly around, if the defensive line is doing their job and he's not getting engaged with blockers and he's able to use his speed to his advantage, then we're going to start to reap the rewards for signing Tremaine Edmonds. I just think it's more about, could they have just let Jack Sanborn do his job? And I think a lot of Bears fans might have preferred that, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain about more good players than less.
No, that's understood. I know it was a lot of money for a guy, and honestly, I think for me, his grade's incomplete. You mentioned a lot of great reasons as to why maybe it should be, just with the defense, the defensive line, and I'll go back to training camp. He wasn't healthy. He could not practice all of camp and the preseason. He wasn't playing, so it took a while. And who knows, if he was even fully 100% by the time the season rolled around, or if he was just healthy enough to hey, let's just get him out there. We paid him a lot of money and he'll be okay. But now that we're getting him, I think healthier. I know he got dinged up again, a few weeks back, but healthier. And with the defensive line playing, we're starting to see, what we've been hoping to out of Edmonds. 2 picks already this season. I mean, that ties a career high. We got a lot of football left. That could be something that he can break. And you mentioned him starting to make plays in the backfield. And that was one thing that's been, I think, bothering me the most throughout the season from him, as the lack of tackles for a loss. He had 17 over his last 3 years in Buffalo, only 2 so far this season, and they've came recently. So we need to start seeing, more and more of those impactful plays. But I think he's very talented. He's still very young too. And that's the one thing that even though he's been in the league for 6 years, people forget he's only 25 years old. He's still a tremendously young player with a lot of experience. So I think we will end up reaping the benefits of this contract. Maybe it doesn't happen right away to the degree that I was hoping for, but I'm willing to be patient for a guy like Tremaine Edmonds, without question. Let's go to the other linebacker though. TJ Edwards. I feel like this is an easy, he's been worth every penny, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, the tackles are there, the plays are there. Last week, Nick and Adam both put it on full display on a key third down where he chases a guy in motion that's motioning from right to left in the backfield. He chases him all the way across the field, navigating through the play and having to weave through some players to push his guy out of bounds. He had to cover him. It's man-to-man coverage, and he gets him out of bounds and is able to, get the Bears off the field. That's the kind of effort you see from TJ Edwards. You see, he was one of the few guys early in the season where they'd send him on a blitz and he'd disrupt the play or get home at times. And, I just think you see a lot of effort from this dude. He's worth every penny. There's no question about it. I'm excited about his future here in Chicago.
Me too. Second in the NFL among all linebackers and tackles at 92, third in run stops at 48, tie for second at the position with interceptions too. He is consistently across the board, a top 5 linebacker. And last season for Philadelphia, very similarly. So I think he's translated very well. I know week 1, I was personally a little upset with some of the plays that he had in coverage against Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a very good running back. It was so early, and there's all the issues that we've talked about in nauseum all season long, but I think he's really turned my perception around of him pretty quickly here. What about Nate Davis? Another interesting one, just due to the, again, the personal issues throughout camp, the inability to be available. He's only played 6 games so far this season, but where's your thoughts on Nate Davis?
Yeah. Obviously, he had the tough go early in the season, losing his mom. So I'm not going to ding him for that. He's allowed to, everybody grieves in their own way. And I'm sure that wasn't easy for him, but that wasn't something the Bears were expecting from a team standpoint, and having to, wait for his return. And then even when he returned, he himself had to kind of acclimate himself. But I just think when he's on the field, he's a plus. So as long
Mhm.
as he can stay on the field, because then he's also had the injuries, that's when it hurts the team. But all teams got to deal with injuries. I saw somebody earlier in the chat saying like, well, if we only didn't have injuries, I wonder what this team would look like. Well, every team has to deal with injuries.
Yes, they do.
So it is what it is. I mean, some get more than others, and you kind of hope you're on the better end of that, but everybody's got to deal with injuries, especially offensive linemen. So to me, as long as he's on the field, I think that's a box checked as far as who's on their offensive line. He plays with physicality. He's got, sometimes you can see him getting downfield blocks,
Right.
and you're like, okay, him and Tevin Jenkins at times, you'll watch these guys and you're like, man, they're like 20 yards downfield laying a block on somebody. So you see the effort even at times. And so to me, when anybody's paired next to Darnell Wright, you're like, dang, that side's short up. When it was Tevin over there, you're like, okay, I like that look, too physical. But even when Nate Davis is next to Darnell Wright, you're like, okay, I'm not worried about that side of the football. So I think they're in a good place. They're trending in such a healthy direction with this offensive line, and it's really exciting because I know we as Bears fans have been begging for a clean pocket for quite some time.
Yep. Ryan Poles, he's really been able to help turn this thing around over the past couple of years, and, testament to the group and the players out there on the field doing the thing too, because it's definitely been improved. What about DeMarcus Walker? What are your thoughts on Walker so far?
Yeah, that's one guy that I just think hasn't done enough.
Mhm.
Here in the last couple games, I think you're starting to see now that he's not asked to be more than what he is, which to me
Sure.
is a rotational piece. All due respect, I think he can be an effective rotational piece. But if you're expecting him, because like going into camp, you're like, okay, or leaving camp, you're like, okay, who are some guys that are gonna, be leaders on this defense? I would have said DeMarcus Walker, because at camp, it's a little hard to judge the trenches. And so a lot of what you have to go off of is who are your vocal leaders. And so he was one of those guys. He kind of had that Akeem Hicks presence as he came out there, somebody that was talking a lot of smack and bringing a lot of intensity to practice, which I respect. But at the same time, you got to have talent. There's a lot of talent and a lot of ability spread across this league. And DeMarcus Walker, I'm not trying to disrespect the guy. I think he can be serviceable as a rotational piece, but not more than that. So I'm, trying not to put a ceiling on the guy, but at the same time, we need an upgrade at that position. And they got that in Montez Sweat. And now you're starting to see DeMarcus Walker make a few more plays.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they can continue to work together, I think, throughout the rest of the year. But so far, it's been kind of underwhelming, not worth the $21 million contract that we signed him here to. Only 2 games, Greg, only 2 games with more than 2 tackles. Like, that's a problem. On top of that, too, he's a guy that had 7 sacks last year, only 1.5 so far this year. We'll see again how the Sweat effect can maybe help trend that back to the right direction, but right now it's definitely not. I don't think it's been worth it. I think we would both agree on Andrew Billings, right? Like he even got extended.
Love Andrew Billings.
Yeah, like he even got extended after being a free agent signing. So I think that tells you how he's seen within the locker room from these coaches, from fans. Andrew Billings is an easy yes. So let's look at some of these 1-year deals real quick. I'll just give you the list and you can tell me who is or not. You can do whatever the hell you want with this, actually. So you have Yannick Ngakoue, Robert Tonyan, Deontay Foreman, Dylan Cole, and Rasheem Green. Is there anyone there that you would say absolutely yes?
Deontay Foreman has been a good signing. The rest of them, Robert Tonyan to me has been one of the more disappointing ones. At camp, you're like, oh, okay, they're going to really use this guy. I can remember Courtney Cronin saying, I think he might get more yards and touchdowns than Cole Kmet. I mean, the way they were using him at camp, you're like, it's not a crazy state. Now it looks crazy. But at the time when you were watching how they were using Robert Tonyan at camp, you're like, okay, they're going to make some plays with this dude. I don't know how many catches he might have. 5 catches on the season, so that hasn't been enough. And Yannick Ngakoue certainly has been a disappointment. I liked watching Montez Sweat and Yannick Ngakoue line up next to each other and make a play, and doing that stun or whatever they did, create some chaos in the backfield. So I think the trickle down effect for Montez Sweat is helping Yannick here recently, but not exactly when you look at his resume, who we were hoping we were getting to start the year. And, like I said, across the board, this team needs more talent. They added that with Montez Sweat. So you're starting to see other guys play better. So I take that into consideration, but that's kind of the problem sometimes when you sign a hired gun, a 1-year deal type guy like Yannick. If the team isn't playing well right away, how much is he really going to buy in when he's like, I'm out of here in 5 games? You know what I mean? So is he truly invested in his future with this franchise, or is he going to be on his 11th team next year? So, that's kind of what you run into when you don't get instant success from your team and you've got hired guns. And that's why it is always better to build through the draft, because those players are more invested and motivated to have long-term goals with the future of your franchise.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it any better myself there, Greg. Like you, I think out of the bunch, Foreman would be the only one I would just immediately give a thumbs up to. I could be persuaded into maybe Green. I know it's a small contract. He's not blowing any numbers out, but he's only playing like 35% of snaps, and he's tied for 3rd in sacks on the team. So, again, bang for your buck. Fine, but he's not overly impressing by any means. I'm just looking at a pure value standpoint.
Terrell Lewis's job, so I'll never like him.
Yeah, I know, right?
We all love Terrell Lewis, even though the rest of the league didn't sign him either. But I still love Terrell Lewis. I got your back, Terrell, so I would have kept him.
But like you with Ngakoue, he had 19.5 sacks the last 2 seasons, only 3 this year. It's a huge drop off. And then with Tanyan, only 10 targets through 10 games as a Bear. And he's coming off with 2 seasons of over 50 catches and over 470 yards. And then he comes here and he can't even get any more than 10 targets in 12 games. It blows my mind how they're not using this guy. That's what I don't understand.
Look at our preseason predictions when we were talking about how many catches and yards each guy on the offense would get. The only one we got right was DJ, and the rest of them don't run the tapes back, please, for the love of God.
Yep. The one thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to take our second break here, is just doing this exercise gets me very excited, even more so about the overall direction and long-term outlook for this team more than the immediate, because we talked about all these building blocks that are either 1st or 2nd-year players, and we had a good list. And then we talked about the guys that signed multi-year deals, and overall, I think we're pretty pleased. But then you look at the 1-year deals and we can move on. But that's the point of the 1-year deals. You're not even hooked down the road. It's just a stopgap kind of a thing. You want to build, like you said, through the draft. And just doing this exercise shows me, and hopefully the listeners and watchers feel the same, is that they are building through the draft. The core and the foundation is through the draft. And you're getting some of these supplemental pieces. And not all of them are hitting, but they're not locked up in these long-term deals. And and so there's some flexibility here. And I think it just shows I think it's being done right, even if the results and the wins aren't coming right now. And maybe leadership needs to change for the actual roster itself. That's an entirely different conversation. But I think you and I, at least here in this show, we're seeing the young talent and even some of these extra older veterans that are going to be long-term stays. So I just feel, I guess, better than maybe I did 55 minutes ago.
I agree. I'm a big Ryan Poles believer. I like the way he's building the roster. I like the future of this franchise's capabilities. Another offseason where they're going to have more money than anyone to spend in free agency. A draft where they're going to have 2 top 10 picks potentially, which we'll get to here in a second. And, that's exciting stuff. And you're starting to build depth. This team did not have depth going into the season. Last year, they didn't have a roster. This year, they built a surface level roster without depth. Now I think they're starting to build depth. And now going into this offseason, the goal hopefully is to add difference makers and game records to the depth you now have. So you can have a record that we were all hoping to have going into this year.
Wow. I'm ready for 2024. Let's get to this offseason. Let's secure some draft picks. Let's build. It's like if I played Madden in a franchise, and I'm I don't have a team. We'll just fast forward the offseason and we'll retool this thing and then compete better next year.
Simulate
real life
the rest of the way.
Right. Too bad I don't have the remote from Click and I can just bloop and then we'll get to the combine.
That's a depressing movie. I challenge anyone to not cry watching Click.
Watching it as an adult, I showed my son. We've been on an Adam Sandler kick over the past month, and like I was like tearing up, man. Like thinking
Oh,
about like
100%, dude.
losing like parts of my life as like a girl. Like as a kid, it's kind of funny. Like you don't understand it, you can't grasp it. But as like an adult and as a father, like skipping through, and the next thing you know, your kids are like grown adults yourself, and you missed all of the moments with them, man. Yeah, don't get me started. Don't get me
Yeah.
started. All right, let's take a break. Second time out. You're up first with this message, and then I'll hop on here second.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to our guys at Midtown Athletic Club. We were just over there here early in the week doing some different things. They've just jumped on board here with CHGO, and we had all sorts of guys out there. And it was funny. Well, we were like, people were like, "Oh, well, hey, bring a gym bag. The showers are available." I'm like, "Why are we gonna need to shower? Like, what are we?" Well, little did I know, we were getting the full Midtown Athletic experience, and we did like 6 separate workouts, and we did a tennis instructing workout that was a lot of fun, doing these different drills, working up a sweat. Then we did an extreme workout where we're doing these squats on the wall, then we're walking dumbbells across and doing push-ups, then doing squats on the wall again, dumbbells across, doing sit-ups, squats on the wall, and I'm dying. I'm literally dying. It's a good sweat. But then we go to the hot yoga. We go to this yoga room, this namaste room. Me and Mark walking in are screaming at each other about Devin Hester. I think there's anybody that's incapable of namaste, it's me and Mark. And we're like, oh, we're finally going to get to relax, all this hard work. Nope. Hot yoga, intense workouts. It was just a lot of fun. So I wanted to give them a personal shout out because they gave us the full experience, and they have a lot of really cool offers for customers there. So they have 4 different Chicagoland locations: Palatine in northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in North Shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, the Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. Midtown Palatine has launched a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be complete in early 2024. You can lock into favorable rates if you join by the end of the year. The club is for everybody. If you're single, trying to get fit, try so you can, hit up the streets and look good for the ladies, you can get out there. But even families with kids, if you're trying to change your lifestyle, holistic wellness, you can come there with your family. When we were there, there was families that were sitting there and helping their kids with homework as one of the other parents was walking away to do a workout. So, it's just one of those really like warm environments and inviting environments for people that want to, finish their work on their laptop or have dinner with their family or let their kid do homework and somebody's, getting a workout in or whatever. You can accomplish all those goals at Midtown Athletic. And, the cool club features, like I said, are just one of the many reasons you should be getting in. Luxury locker rooms with wet and dry saunas, premium amenities for everybody, outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs, a collection of boutique fitness studios. There's a barber there. I mean, I'm telling you, they've got everything in this place with more than 100 classes per week for fitness studios is included in the membership. This isn't gym quality either. These spaces are boutique quality. High intensity interval training, like I said, that we went through, yoga, boxing, spin and cycling, field cross training, group exercises. They have it all. Their tennis courts and are some of the top notch in the city. So just make sure you're checking all of that out. Head over to midtown.com/CHGO, find out more, and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you.
Awesome stuff there. Let's definitely go check out Midtown Athletic Club. And while you're thinking about it, you can also go check out Empire Today, because with Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, I mean, there's going to be copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on their quality, their service, speed. So competitors advertise those low quality products that Empire just simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices, because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that you wouldn't be putting in their own. So they keep shopping for floors simple with curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find exactly what you need, not to overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Now, shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating, and you can talk to someone today who was working in plumbing literally yesterday. Flooring is all Empire today does. They live and breathe flooring, so you can be confident that you're getting honest, upfront advice. They service their own warranties as well. So if an issue does arise, you can just call Empire. They service all warranties themselves. So that way you don't have to go track down a manufacturer's phone number. So convenient. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use that promo code CHGO. Again, that promo code CHGO. You can also see empiretoday.com/CHGO for details, and all of that would unlock you a $350 off discount. Again, code CHGO.
Let's go.
All right. Well, DeWitt, Greg Braggs Jr. here, CHGO Bears Podcast. And I think it's time for a little tank watch. Is that what we're doing?
Tank watch.
Yeah, I was grabbing. We're looking forward to actually having that drop on the show pretty much for the entirety of this episode. But as you can tell right now, if you're watching the screen, the Bears, of course, hold that number 1 pick from Carolina, and the Bears' own pick is sitting at number 4 with their 4-8 record. And in between the two, you got the Cardinals and you have the Patriots at 2-10 and 2-9, respectively. So we're just going to take a moment here and just kind of highlight, what games you should be paying attention to, as they're going to have some draft implications here for the Chicago Bears. I mean, it's a bye week, so we get to actually watch some of the other NFL. But we will do it a little bit focused. So I like this segment here today.
Yeah, it's a big one. The Panthers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3:00. I'm really hoping I haven't checked my TV guide for the young Bucks. Probably don't know what a TV guide is, but I'm really looking forward to this Panthers Tampa Bay game. I'm nervous as hell for it because I think we've seen a lot of times this year and years past where a team fires their head coach and that gives them a boost of energy. And that's the main game on this list on the 3:00 slate. So I like that it's out of the 12:00 slate, but it has huge implications for the Bears. Obviously, we need the Panthers to continue to lose, but also we need Tampa Bay to win for 2 reasons.
Exactly.
Because they played Carolina the final week of the season. So we need Tampa Bay to also stay in the division race. That NFC South, it's one of the worst divisions in football. So they have every opportunity to stay in that division race, and we need them to all the way until the final week of the season. And so I'm like, that game to me is bigger than any Bears game the rest of the year, because we need Carolina to stay in this depressed area of their mind that they can't feel like they ever have a chance to win, so they can finish out the season the way we need them to. But the thing to keep in mind with Carolina is, while the second and third team on that list have only 2 wins, Carolina holds the tiebreaker with those teams because of strength of schedule. So Carolina would have to win 2 games with New England and Arizona losing out in order for Carolina to be jumped by either of those teams. So 2 wins in their last 6 games, I think is a tall order, but it's not impossible. So let's get that number whittled down to 5 games, and let's let Tampa Bay finish the job here.
Yeah, let's hope that Chris Tabor, we know Chris, he was here for the Bears for a couple of years. He's the interim head coach now in Carolina. Let's hope that he doesn't have any magic here, because we do need the Panthers to keep losing. And really too, Greg, like the Buccaneers winning in both those matchups will help the Bears, because currently they're holding that 7th overall pick with their 4-7 record. And we would like them to get as far removed as way from the Bears' own pick too. That's currently sitting at 5. So it's like a win-win. Win, or if I should say, I don't want to say win because that will make me eat my words, but win. Damn it, I just say win Tampa. I shouldn't say it. I said if Tampa Bay, damn it, knock on wood, you're right, loses or wins this game, and Tampa Bay's actually lost 6 of their last 7 games too. 4 of those have been by 1 score. So hopefully Carolina doesn't have that jump, like you said, but that's an easy one. We also have the Chargers and Patriots. Patriots are 5.5 point underdogs right now, sitting at 2-9 with that third overall pick.
That's a win-win there, like you just pointing out too, right? Because we'd love the Patriots to win. But if they don't, then that pushes the Chargers, because every 4-win team moving up to 5 also enhances the chances of the Bears getting a minimum of a top 3 pick, which then falls into the potential of a Marvin Harrison Jr. range. So obviously rooting for the Patriots, but I don't know if the Patriots are going to win another game the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But again, when you think that won't happen,
it's the NFL. Anything can happen, right?
Anything really can happen. Then we have the Cardinals, who are 2-10 at the second overall pick versus Steelers. Again, another 5.5 point underdog here. The Cardinals are. What I'm hoping for here is that James Conner, since this will be the first time that he's facing the Steelers since leaving that team in 2020, decides to just go off on him, have a huge game, and then Kyler Murray takes yet another step forward now that he's back in action here for the Cardinals. So hopefully all's not lost is over there. And again, easy one.
And I have more faith in Arizona winning a game than I do New England the rest of the year. Because as I mentioned, in order for either Arizona or New England to jump Carolina, they would have to lose out and Carolina win 2 games. So if either one of those teams wins 1 game, now the chances of a 1-win Carolina team winning 3 games is so slim, because if the Bears end up with the number 1 or number 2 pick, you're guaranteed either, if the Cardinals take Marvin Harrison Jr. 1, now you're at 2 with either the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams, or B, use that pick to trade back for a haul like the Bears did last year. And I'll consider one of those scenarios. To me right now, the worst case scenario for the Bears is having the number 3 pick, which still offers some opportunities here, but we're just getting closer and closer to that moment where the Bears are clinching one of those top 2 picks, if not the number 1 pick, which is something that will set up this franchise for years to come.
Yeah. I mean, to do it back-to-back years, and it wasn't even your pick, and you traded your first overall, and then in return you got the next year's first overall, or the top 2, and then you were able to get more resources on top of it. Like, it'd be mind-blowing to look back in 5 years and start like down the tree of like this first pick turned into these picks, which turned into these players, which turned into this pick, which turned into these players.
Right.
Like that would be an insane
so I mean, tree. This entire show we've done, I get Ryan Poles has made mistakes, but everything we've talked about today, like I get we're both like, you're not a homer like I'm a homer, but we're both diehard Bears fans, you know, and we have that homer inside of us. We have that meatball inside of us. But at the same time, if you're just looking at it objectively, you can't say that Ryan Poles hasn't done a good job setting this franchise up for the future. Yes, he has some big decisions to make with the head coach and the quarterback, but you cannot say he hasn't done a good job. There's been mistakes, but they're on the right path. They've got some big decisions coming up this offseason.
They sure do. I mean, the fact that he had to rip it down, to the studs, as we talked about a lot last year, was the phrasing that we kept using, and just reestablishing, free and flexible cap situations. And then you bring in the players, you draft appropriately, and now we have all these additional draft resources available to us down the road, like immediately. It really is. The word I have is exciting for the future. So the last 3 games that we have here is Dolphins and Commanders. Of course, the Commanders are sitting at pick 5 right now. They're 9.5 underdogs right now. I know they just fired Jack Del Rio for the defensive coordinator, so maybe Riverboat Ron will get that defense playing at a high level that it needs to hold Miami in check, to make that game as close as possible. I think that's going to be a difficult matchup here this week. And then also Falcons and Jets. If the Jets want Rodgers to come back with something to play for, they better find a way to win this game. And then you have Colts at Titans, which seems to be like, at least to me, with how the AFC South has gone and really how these games tend to go. And it's only a 1-point spread right now. I think it's going to be a close, tough-nosed game that, hopefully the Titans can find a way to win. Colts been playing pretty good ball too as of late, but I think it's going to be a tough matchup regardless.
Yep. And as I mentioned before, all these 4-win teams, not including the Bears, Washington, all the way down to Tennessee. All of those teams, with the exception of Tampa Bay, have a strength of schedule over 500. So if you're looking at like the craziest scenarios of the Bears falling out of the top three, the Washington, or I mean, not Washington, Tampa Bay is the only team with a strength of schedule under 500, which would jump Carolina. So I know it gets a little confusing here, but that's why this Tampa Bay Carolina game is just so big. Get them out of there. And these other teams that have 4 wins, even if they were to stay there, that would mean Carolina would have to win 4 of their last 6 games to hop any of those teams and push us out of a top 3 pick. So we're just finally getting to the end where all these hypothetical conversations are starting to dissipate, and we can see a real vision of where this is going to be in the decision Ryan Poles is going to have in front of him. So I'm excited. I'm excited to sit on my couch on Sunday and root like hell against the Carolina Panthers.
There we go. I'm going to take our final break here real quick. And then on the flip side, Greg, while I'm doing this break, I want you to think of like the proper send off for the show, because I'll go ahead and I'll task you with that.
I know. If you did, I guarantee
we'll be here all day. I know.
Lawrence just shook his head. It's like, dear God, do not do that. You just put that in my hands. Have you ever heard of the Midwestern goodbye? I'm classic at that.
Yep, there it is. There it is.
We did just finish, I believe, a record-long ad read from Braggs. The Midtown read went almost 4 minutes long. So if we could just forget all that happened.
Hey, Mario Tirabassi had some long ad reads last night with the Blackhawks that certainly set records. So if I got to sit through those, you got to sit through me.
Why don't you mention more details about things?
There we go. Let me do Hero Bread. We'll sign off and we'll call it a weekend. I've had a great time talking Chicago Bears with everybody here today. But for Hero Bread, one thing I really love about Hero Bread is the fact that like you get a little bit more fiber and protein in your diet, which are 2 very important key elements that really you don't get from some of the other breads out there. But it's a good low carb option that kind of can help fit within a lot of people's different dietary constraints. It has really delicious flavor. It's soft, it's fluffy. Again, I mentioned it's super high in fiber. It's low in net carbs. There's no grams of sugar per slice. And I mean, there's just so many reasons why you should definitely be trying Hero Bread. They also make sliced breads, buns, tortillas. That's available on hero.co and Amazon. You can use our discount code for that first purchase, CHGO, that unlocks 10% off at hero.co. And then, of course, there are also fewer calories than the leading national brand, 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. So, I mean, that's just great on top of it all. So right now, Hero Bread is offering the CHGO family 10% off that first order. As I mentioned, head over to hero.co. Use our code CHGO to save on Hero Bread today. That's hero.co. Again, I'm just going to spell all that for you because I dropped the ball. HERO.co. There we go. And that will save you 10% off here today. So as concisely as possible, Gregory, you got this. Possible. How do we put everything that we talked about here today and put a nice, neat bow on it?
Well, like I said before, right before going on my little rant, I'll do a mini rant attached to that. Again, everything that we talked about today, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. This season has not been fun. They should be 6-6. They should be right now the 7th seed in the playoffs, and they're not because they blew it against Detroit and Denver. Well, does that mean that they're a team ready to win a Super Bowl? No. But I think when you look past the negativity and the failures of this season so far, and you look at the positive signs, there are some there, and we've highlighted a lot of those here today. And I'm excited about the future of this franchise. I'm nervous as hell if they can get the head coach and quarterback right. I'm fine with whatever Ryan Poles decides. I think everybody's kind of drawn their line in the sand. I want Caleb Williams. I want to keep Justin Fields. I want to keep the coaching staff. I want Jim Harbaugh. Everybody's got their opinions. But at the end of the day, I think the roster's in a good spot. I think the franchise has an opportunity to really turn the corner, and it's up to Ryan Poles to get us there. And I believe in Ryan Poles to make the right decisions. So I'm not going to overthink it. I have my opinions as a fan, but at the end of the day, I can trust that Ryan Poles is going to do what he thinks is best, and let's just hope that is what's best.
Well said. And I was under the ad read time that we just did a little bit earlier. So that's a win-win. But I agree 100% with everything that you just laid out there, Greg. And I hope that people who listen to this episode feel a little bit better about the future than maybe they were prior to this episode. Because I know even just going through the exercises of preparing for the show and the conversations that you and I had here for this episode, I personally do feel a little bit more at ease, even because like the game week to week, especially when the games are what the Bears games tend to be like, it could really put a negative spin on things, kind of get you kind of, I guess, lost in a shuffle in a bit. But this is a good way to kind of take a step back, reflect, and then get a proper perspective on maybe how things are looking for the future. So I thought you said that very well. So for everyone listening and watching, I'll say thank you so much for joining us here today. We really do appreciate each and every one of you. If you're not yet, go to allchgo.com and become a diehard. We would love to welcome you over to the CHGO family. But that's going to do it for us here today. Have a great weekend. Enjoy time with your families. Enjoy some football here on Sunday that is not Bears related. Take a nice breather, and then we'll be back here next week to start another game week right away on Monday. But until then, bear down, Chicago.
We all silly like the mayor.